Do you believe in capitalism or socialism? Do you believe that individual liberty, self-reliance, and free enterprise should be allowed to operate with a minimum of government interference? Or do you believe that all wealth is a social creation and that the capitalist system results in an unfair distribution of economic resources which must be addressed via structural changes designed to alleviate poverty, wealth inequality, and other negative consequences of our existing economic system? Most importantly, do you view these as mutually exclusive alternatives? Must we choose one or the other? Hi, my name is Josh Sidman, and I'm the International Coordinator of the Silvio Gesell Institute. We'll return to these questions shortly, but first I'd like to tell you a little bit about our organization. The Institute is based in Argentina and is dedicated to the study, dissemination, and implementation of the economic theories and proposals of the economist and entrepreneur Silvio Gesell. Gesell lived from 1862 to 1930. He was born and raised in Germany, but spent a significant portion of his life in Argentina, where his experiences as a businessman enabled him to arrive at a deep understanding of the nature of markets, money, and the creation and distribution of wealth. His economic writings attracted the attention of people at the highest level of the Argentinian government, forming the basis of an economic reform package in 1899 that laid the foundation for the longest period of sustained economic growth in the country's history. His ideas quickly spread to Europe and North America, where they had important impacts both in the realm of policy as well as in the field of academic economics. Despite the fact that Gesell didn't even have a university education, his work was admired and appreciated by some of the best economic minds of his time. John Maynard Keynes, the most influential economist of the 20th century, spent 5 pages in his book, The General Theory, discussing Gesell's ideas and referred to him as an unduly neglected prophet. He predicted that the future will learn more from the spirit of Gesell than from that of Marx. Irving Fisher, a renowned Yale economist and the intellectual godfather of the New Deal, described himself as a humble servant of the merchant Gesell. Albert Einstein was also an admirer and friend. Despite his profound influence on the economic landscape of the first half of the 20th century, Gesell's name is virtually unknown today. This is a tragedy because his ideas are as relevant and necessary now as they were when he first developed them. So what does a forgotten economist from 100 years ago have to offer today's world? To answer that question, let's consider the current state of the global economy, as well as the range of economic policy solutions which are offered in response to the daunting challenges we face. There's a growing consensus these days that our existing economic theories and institutions are not working. There's a range of opinions about why this is and what needs to be done, but few would argue that we're on a healthy, sustainable course. Despite the fact that we're producing wealth on a historically unprecedented scale, most of that wealth does not reach the broader population. A small group of global elites enjoy an ever larger share of the economic pie, while the vast majority of people struggle to maintain any semblance of a reasonable standard of living, and large segments of the world's population live in abject poverty. The global economy lurches from one crisis to the next, each one larger and more damaging than the last. And even those who sit atop the socio-economic pyramid have a growing sense that the status quo is unstable and unsustainable. Rising levels of debt threaten the economic futures of individuals, businesses, and entire countries. Ever-increasing wealth inequality is eroding any sense of social cohesion that holds societies together all around the world. And our extractive economic practices are destroying our planet. When it comes to the search for solutions, most economic debate today takes place along the capitalism versus socialism spectrum. On one end are those who believe in the free market system. They argue for less government involvement in the economy and consider those who get left behind by the tide of economic development to be an unfortunate but inevitable cost of progress. And on the other side are those who believe that the capitalist system is broken and evil and needs to be torn down and replaced with some form of centralized control. But neither of these groups has a track record of delivering broad-based prosperity and stability. The free market system has proven itself capable of generating enormous wealth, but that wealth only flows to those at the top, leaving the vast majority of people struggling and insecure. Furthermore, all capitalist economies throughout history have been plagued by recurring crises and instability. Whereas those countries which have attempted to replace the capitalist system with various forms of socialism or communism have invariably seen standards of living stagnate or collapse. It's hard for anyone to look at the current range of economic policy alternatives and feel optimistic about the future. And this is why the world urgently needs to rediscover Silvio Gesell. Gesell provides a fundamentally different way of looking at our economic problems and offers a different set of solutions for putting us on a path toward broad-based prosperity and sustainable economic development. While Gesell is neither a capitalist nor a socialist, he draws on the best elements of both traditions in order to arrive at an understanding of our economic problems that is both straightforward and revolutionary. And he offers a concrete set of solutions designed to harness the economic dynamism of the free market system, while at the same time addressing the fundamental concerns which cause socialist movements to spring up all around the world in opposition to capitalism. To briefly sum up Gesell's analysis, in common with the capitalists, he believes that the pursuit of individual self-interest within a system of free markets is the best way of providing for society's material needs. He values freedom and believes that everyone is better off when individuals are allowed to chart their own course and develop their own potential in whatever way they see fit. He recognizes and values the enormous benefits that the free market system has bestowed upon humanity and is opposed to any efforts on the part of governments to abridge individual liberties. However, he parts ways with traditional capitalism in terms of how he analyzes the creation and distribution of wealth. He argues that there are two fundamental flaws in our current implementation of the free market system, which prevent it from delivering on its promise of broad-based prosperity, namely our form of money and our system of land ownership. The unifying thread between these two seemingly unrelated factors is that both give rise to what Gesell refers to as unearned income. In other words, our existing form of money and our system of land ownership cause wealth to flow into the pockets of people who have not contributed to the creation of that wealth. And the fact that a large percentage of society's wealth is siphoned off by people who have not earned it means that there isn't enough left to go around for everyone else. According to Gesell, this is the reason for insufficient wages. This is the reason for economic inequality. And this is the reason for recurring crises and instability. Gesell agrees with the socialist/communist perspective that our existing economic system prevents workers from receiving the full value of their labor. But whereas Marx attributes this fact to the private ownership of the means of production, Gesell says that this is a fundamental misunderstanding of the dynamics of the creation and distribution of wealth. Gesell agrees with the capitalists that people should be able to keep and enjoy as large a portion of the fruits of their labor as possible. So unlike traditional socialists, he does not argue for the redistribution of wealth in the sense of taking from those who produce wealth and giving to those who do not. Rather, he says that our current version of the free market system does not actually result in those who produce wealth being allowed to enjoy it. Our existing systems of money and land ownership essentially function as forms of wealth redistribution in favor of the idle rich and at the expense of those who actually create wealth. This is exactly the opposite of what is supposed to happen in a true free market system. So in a sense, Gesell is actually more of a true capitalist than traditional capitalists, while at the same time being more of a true socialist than traditional socialists. And most importantly, he reveals that these two philosophies, which have thus far been viewed as antithetical and hostile to each other, are actually not mutually exclusive. Gesell shows us that we don't need to choose capitalism or socialism. Both systems of thought contain important and valid insights, and it's not necessary to view the choice as an either-or proposition. Deciding that we want to foster and encourage economic liberty, self-reliance, and individual initiative does not mean that we have to accept poverty and massive wealth inequality. And wanting to prioritize economic justice does not mean that we have to give up the benefits of the free market system. As in so many areas of life these days, we are told that two principles stand in opposition to each other, and that we must choose one side or the other. But in reality, there's no need to choose. Wouldn't it be better to draw on the wisdom of both models in order to build a system that maximizes the production of wealth and also ensures a fair and rational distribution of that wealth? Well, that's exactly what Silvio Gesell offers. Unfortunately, at this point, there are very few people advocating for his ideas either in the field of academic economics or in the realm of economic policy. And this is why the Silvio Gesell Institute was formed. None of the currently prevailing intellectual or policy paradigms offer real solutions to the challenges we face. The bankruptcy of the existing models of economic thought are apparent, and a new set of solutions is desperately needed. And as it turns out, these new solutions already exist. In fact, they've existed for over 100 years. They simply need to be rescued from obscurity and shared with the world. So this video is an introduction. It's an introduction both to a different way of thinking about economics, as well as to an organization whose mission is to build a movement to promote these ideas both in academia as well as in the halls of government. In this video, we've painted some broad strokes. Much remains to be done in order to connect the dots and flesh out the argument. In future videos, we'll examine Gesell's economic analysis in a step-by-step manner. And we'll also put that analysis into context by surveying the history of economic thought and examining the reasons why the dominant economic models have thus far failed to deliver the results that they promise. We hope you'll join us on this journey. So please subscribe to this channel to be alerted when we post new videos. And if you wish to support our organization, you can do so via Patreon or PayPal. Links for doing so will be posted in the description below. Thanks for watching.